Hello and welcome to Bird Barrier ProLab Studio. The name ProLab means L-A-B-B. Tony, you didn't know that. L-A-B-B, which is an acronym for
Learn at Bird Barrier.
Learn at Bird Barrier. So welcome to our podcast. Now this is a podcast, even though we have video going on with the podcast here, the idea is that when techs are out there in the world and they want to learn and improve their game, they can listen safely, keep their eyes on the road. That's primarily what's behind the idea behind podcasts for the first time for Bird Barrier to offer these. Now we did a poll and we asked people out there through our Facebook Bird Barrier Live training page. There's a lot of guys that go through our certification out there, and they've joined that group, and they've been great to give us insight on what the guys on the street want to see. And one of the things that has come up a lot, especially for people that are new to bird control, this is one of the areas that we cover with, with the regular amount of newcomers to bird control because of our ProLab studio, because of the webcasting that we've been doing. So Tony Gittone is here. He is our senior veteran with the company. And the reason we want to bring Tony in on this particular subject is that he has the most experience of just about anybody at Bird Barrier other than Cameron Riddell, the president of our company. You're the guy that has years and years of experience, more than twice than I even have out here. But the question that comes up is about callbacks, right? So
the dreaded callback.
The dreaded callback. So the thing about pest control, right? Just think about that word, those two words together. You're controlling a pest problem for the customer.
Yeah.
And when you take under your responsibility all the various possibilities, which could include birds, it could include wildlife like raccoons, but primarily we know general pests is going to be insects and rodents and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when we venture into things like birds, first of all, tell me why a callback, in other words, a failure of an install, is so damaging to a company like a pest control company. Why does it matter?
Well, it opens the door for competition to move in. If you're not providing the service that they're looking for, and with birds, maybe they have to bring somebody else that's a competitor, and you could lose that contract.
That's a great point.
So that's one aspect, but the callback really stems from lack of communication between the installer and his end user. That's my belief. There's a lack of communication there. There's something that wasn't verbally talked about or written about if you have a contract with your end user. They need to understand what the process is. And this is very, very important. This is when you can get your end user to shake his head up and down and go, oh, I get this. That makes sense to me. When you can make this happen, that's when things go smooth. That's when they sign off on the deal and say, sold, right then and there. You have to be able to simplify. This is a niche industry that we're in. This is very niche. People don't understand. They don't understand our products. You talk about a multi-purpose cable bracket, they don't know what it is, right? They don't know that we need turnbuckles. They don't know all this. But if you can simplify and make them understand why birds are doing this and why they're going here, and this is how we're going to take care of this area and why this area is important to this area, if you can kind of simplify things very simply, that's when people understand and they go, okay, I get it. Nobody else has ever explained that to me like you have. Now I want to move forward.
Great points. Now, one of the things that I teach in the sales training portion, and that is module number 6 of the 6 modules that are part of our standard certification program. And it comes back to intro to bird control. This is also brought up, but we come full circle. And the most important first question that I tell people to ask is, why do you need this problem solved? And that's an open-ended question, right? It's not a yes or no question. When I say, why does this need to be solved, invites a story. A story reveals tons of information, and at that point, a real sales professional becomes great at listening, right? So your idea of first starting off with collecting the right information from that end
Exactly.
user
Yeah.
is critical. Absolutely right. Now, one of the things, though, that plays into this is expectations. Now, even though the customer says, you know what, I totally get this, and then the deal is sold. Another critical factor I find to safeguard against callbacks is what expectation do they have when the project completes? Because sometimes when a project completes, it solves a particular area of their property, but the birds are not gone from the entire property. So being able to set expectations. So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, for example, if there's a big infestation, you're going to exclude the birds by using stealth net.
Yeah.
And then what happens after
So
that?
here's, whenever you're using stealth net for exclusion purposes, right? This is what it's used for mainly, technically. If you don't offer a trapping program, if you do not trap the resident birds, and that's up to your end user. He's going to say yes or no to that. If you do not, and you do install this stealth net, you can expect to see those resident birds come back and get as close to the netting as possible. They're going to find a nugget. They're going to find a nut and bolt. They're going to find a 2-inch little corner of a ledge. And if it's close to where that net is, that's where they're going to hang on to that. You can expect that. You should communicate that to your customer. Listen, we're going to put the net up. It doesn't mean the birds are going anywhere. It just means they can't be behind this net anymore.
Right.
So they have to understand that before you sign off on anything. If you do a trapping program, which is always recommended in my book, if you can remove the resident birds, that is half of the deal. That is half of your problem solved, because now the only bird that you're going to be dealing with is the new guy. And guess what? The new guy is the most easily deterred bird.
Yeah.
That bird has no history there. That bird has no commitment level there, and that bird is not going to fight an eagle eye or flex track or spike to be in that zone.
That's a great point. One of the 10 points that we close our sales training with is to make sure that the person selling the job makes a distinction between regular birds that are going to be in the area for years to come and the resident bird, which has that attachment to the property. Those are the ones, the resident birds, you're targeting with a trapping program. Now, let's say that a trapping program cannot be part of the program. Perhaps there are employees there that hate to see the birds be trapped, or whatever reason trapping.
That's a whole other issue.
Right. So that's a problem. But the point is this: if you're not going to get rid of those resident birds, then in terms of a callback or a perceived failure, it has a lot to do with what's going to happen with resident birds that are left unchecked after a project is completed.
Well, here's what I like to do, and I like to always throw these options out. I think it's a part of our job working for bird barriers. I don't really consider myself a sales guy. I'm here to show you what your options are and to fix your problem, right? No matter what it takes. But if you put up net and you don't trap and remove the birds, we can expect that the resident birds are going to look for weaknesses in your installation. That's normal. If you're doing a canopy net on top of a gas station canopy that's running vertically, the birds will come back and sit on top of the canopy net. They'll be exposed. They don't mind doing that. They could be there for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but a lot of times what happens is especially pigeons, they're going to get picked off by nighttime predators because they are at the top of the menu for most nighttime predators, including owls and nighthawks, and they know it, right?
Right.
So,
Okay. Well, then, in terms of the callback factor,
the callback.
The callback factor is really I think what we're driving at here with this particular podcast, we want people to know that doing a proper inspection and assessment, asking the right questions for the customer to understand their pain and what it is they need solved, but then the idea of a callback is closely tied to an expectation of the customer. So for example, I'm
Right.
going to give you an example what I
Right.
tell guys with when they do an optical gel install that's going to get rid of a lot of the birds, especially the nesting birds. We're going to
Yeah.
solve those birds. That I tell them that they don't have to tell the customer that those birds are going to be gone tomorrow. But we tell them that within 30 days, there's going to be a great reduction in activity. A
Right.
great reduction in activity. And why? The reason why is that the expectation then is not going to lead to a failure. A week later, if there are still birds, the customer was told 30 days, so they have this little bit of flexibility.
Yeah.
What do you think
Well,
of that?
here's what I want to touch on. Okay, so if you're an installer and you go to a structure, a commercial structure, and they have bird issues, one of your first questions should always be is, how long have you had a problem here? Right? Let's figure that out. If it's 3 to 5 years or more, this structure is a proven bird magnet, let's just say. There's a tree line someplace close by. When these birds jump out of the nest, they're coming to this structure for whatever reason, whether it's the tallest structure in the immediate area, whether it has a dark colored roof and you're in Minnesota and that stays warm and they're attracted by the heat, whatever it may be, these birds are constantly going to come there. So when you determine you have a structure that's always going to be fed new birds, what's the first thing you want to do? You have to put up perimeter defenses on that structure, targeting the new guy before he becomes a resident bird. Now, why did I bring this up as far as the callback goes? Because this is part of something that should be discussed with your customer. They have to understand that their structure is attracting birds, and it will always attract birds until you address the issues on the
Yeah,
outside.
it's like one of the dreaded parts of bird control are the people that keep the doors open and then they expect you to be able to control what I call the open sky. But to conclude this particular episode, the thing that I want to touch on is the damage of a callback. And look, we're trained professionals here. Tony Giton has years of experience.
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience to bring to the table. Ray in the East Coast, our East Coast rep, Cameron Riddell, Matt Ergel, we have a whole team of people that can get you off to a good start with your project. So if there's any doubt, the best thing to do is to consult with us before the project, because the way that I see it is like this, and I've talked to management of the biggest pest control companies in the country, and they all agree that when you have a glaring failure with bird control, it's something that's visual and that you can really see. And here's the problem. When they can visually see a failure, then they start to doubt the things that are invisible to them. For example, that's the same property where maybe you're doing a general pest program to control roaches in the kitchen. And although you see a couple roaches occasionally and that's a problem in a kitchen, they begin to wonder, well, is this company really controlling the pest that I can't see? Are they controlling the rodents that are running around at night? It starts to undermine the whole strength of their ability. So in many ways, I firmly believe that if you cannot do a great job and avoid callbacks on a regular basis, then you should probably not be doing that kind of work.
Another thing you want to think about, this is a good way to avoid a callback, right? When you have a large structure and you know that this is a big project, do it in phases. Do a phase 1. That inherently leaves the door open to phase 2. We're going to put out the immediate fires. We can fix these immediate spots. Done. Phase 1. Now we're going to take a 2-week wait and see. And this is all because the customer doesn't want to trap, doesn't want to do a trapping program. So now we're going to take a 2-week wait and see where the birds go. They might go over to the west side of the building. If they do it, we go phase 2. Now we go phase 2. If you do it in phases, you inherently leave the door open, and that's going to help you with the callback.
That's great. Wow, this is great stuff, Tony.
Yeah.
I always respect your feedback, and I'm tailing behind you many years behind your level of experience. So
this guy right here, this guy is the most underrated guy in the business today. We love Michael Gallion. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Tony. That means a lot to me. But seriously, you know, this is good because I'm learning from these, you know, these podcasts, these broadcasts. This is good information. We got a lot of good stuff coming. So to conclude this particular podcast, I'm going to ask you out there, if you've listened to this, tell us how you like this. Was this helpful? Did we leave information out? Perhaps there's another callback subcategory that we could talk about. And the point is that the listener is in charge out there. All of our modules, our training modules, are built on feedback that we get from you. So below in the link that's attached to this is a survey that you can take and give us feedback, but most importantly, include other subjects. What do you want to learn about besides sales? I know that's a big one.
Right.
Where our first feedback was, tell us how to sell and succeed in the business of bird control.
Sales strategies.
Selling, how to close deals. We got a lot of good podcast material coming. But maybe what are some of the things you want to learn while you're in your truck, you're driving, maybe you have an hour to kill to your next visit, and you really want to use it wisely and improve your skills. So give us your feedback. Again, my name is Michael Gallion. I do business development. This is Tony Chaton. He is our senior veteran who has more knowledge in bird control than anyone at the company.
I got the most gray.
Yeah. I just covered my gray.
Yeah,
Who we fooling?
Right.
All right. We look forward to helping everyone out there. You guys take care and be safe on the road.